welcome to this section on tools, on what we will use to apply the paint with. I like to apply the paint in lots of different ways, but I do have a favourite toolkit, and this is what you'll see before you. I've probably got somewhere in the region of 100 brushes, but the only ones that I use, the ones that I take with me, the ones that I don't think I could paint without, are these ones that I'm going to show you now. So to start with, when we think about putting paint on, we generally think about brushes, don't we? And that is a good place to start, but don't stop there. Expand, your repertoire to use things to apply the paint that really appeal to you. So everything from a bit of bubble wrap to print with, to a baby wipe to smear with. So I'm going to demonstrate all these different tools and explain the differences and their benefits and why I like them. So here's my favourite tools, the ones that I paint with regularly and that I wouldn't like to be without. I'm going to demonstrate these tools on the prepared board that we looked at in the last lesson. So this has got a dry background of black and blue acrylic on there. You can already see some nice layers building up. So to make contrast and to show you the marks that I'll be making as I introduce these tools, I will work with some fluid acrylic white, which is peeling, there it is. All bits of dried paint. Let's blow them off. Right, I'll just put a little blob on here. There we go, that's enough. Right, so to start with, the brushes that I like to use synthetic brushes. They come in a variety of colours. You can get white synthetics, you can get golden synthetic brushes, which are called golden Taklon mostly, and you can also get some that are black in colour and made to look like hair brushes. The ones that are specifically sold as acrylic or multimedia brushes will be nice and soft. They'll be flexible. I'm just going to grab some different ones here to show you the difference. See if I can find a clean one so you can see. Here's a good one. There we are. That one fine. So this one is called a silver white. It's by Silver Brushes, and it's called a bright or a flat. Can you see that there? Let me just get this out of here. And with these synthetic brushes, they've just got the right amount of spring there. They'll pull the paint nicely. The other brushes that you might see around, of course, are brushes for watercolour, like this. They tend to be very, very soft. The filaments are finer to draw water up rather than thicker paint. And you can use these with acrylics. Of course you can. You can water down your acrylics and use acrylics just like watercolours. But if you're using acrylic out of the tube or out of the pot like I have, you'll see that it will tend to really clog up in the ferrule there, because these, as I said, they're very fine, the fibres, and they're designed to absorb water in, and it will clog those up. Conversely, the brushes that you would get for oil painting tend to be bristle and thicker, like this one here, coarser, much coarser, because they're designed to just keep the paint on the end of the brush really and move it about. What you'll find with these is that they would leave, they're not as springy, they've got a lot tougher like that. They'll have a lot more resistance, you might like that, but they'll tend to leave brush marks in the paint as well. And if you're working with some paint like this that's quite fluid, or you've got water in your acrylic paint, if you scrubble it about like that, you'll make a froth with bubbles in it. It'll go frothy, I can't say that. You'll end up with bubbles there in the paint, and as the paint dries, which it does quite quickly, the bubbles will dry and leave you little circles, which can be a nice effect, but if it's not wanted, it can be quite distressing. So look out for some synthetic mid-length brushes is what I'd recommend. I prefer short handles. I've got one long handle here. I don't tend to work at the end of a handle, so I work quite close up like that, more like holding it like a pen mostly. So long handles are not for me. I tend to end up breaking them off. like that, because I just prefer that kind of weight to it. So yeah, these kind of synthetics, the white or the golden colour synthetics there, that's great. I like to work with flat or bright brushes. Tend to work with quite a big flat one, but for this size of board that I'm working on here, this one, which is about a 1/2 inch or a size 10, yeah, or 18 is that? Quite, you see, about that wide. A bit wider than my finger, not quite as wide as 2. It's about 1/2 inch. 3/4 of an inch. Sorry, I'm not very good on sizes. Size 18. Sorry, yeah, that's a size 18. This one's a 10. There you go. You can see they go smaller, bigger. When they get up to a certain size, though, they tend to be denoted by inches. So this one's a 2-inch brush. This is called a silicone brush. As you can see, it's flat there as well. But that's got some nice spring and resistance, and make some nice marks with that, which I'll show you in a minute. The other couple of brushes that I use that are in my kit, this is something called a liner. Can you see how fine those brushes there? It's a size 0, and I think it's just got 10 filaments in. This one's by Silver. It's called an extra long liner, and I love that. I'll show you in a minute what that does. This is another liner here, script liner, a few more bristles in there. And this is one of my favourites as well. It's called a Black Velvet Striper. This is a 3/8 of an inch striper. You get these in different sizes. Just going to see if I have a dry one there. Yeah, that's just a smaller triangular brush in the same series. But this is great for, it holds so much water. So I like to use this one for my ink, for black ink or white ink. It holds so much paint, and you can do big long lines and make some nice shapes with that. So let's just explore these shapes, the different things that these paints can do. So the brushes can do, sorry. What I'm working on here, as I said, is that board that I demonstrated the acrylic paint on. Some printing there. So yeah, don't forget you can print with your acrylics as well. And I've got here charcoal and chalk, and that's because when I've got some paint on the board like this, I like to chalk on it, sort of give myself an idea of what I might be thinking about painting and where I might be thinking of doing it. And if I've done that in the wrong place, then I can simply wipe it off. There's no mistakes. So as well as these brushes, which I'll demonstrate to you, another really useful tool in my toolkit for putting paint on is a baby wipe. So I just dip into that and literally use it to put the paint on. Not only can you use it to put the paint on, but if your paint is somewhere that you don't want it, you can use it to take the paint off by just simply turning it around. So it's a super tool to have in your kit. Right, let's leave that a little bit. So as I said, with acrylic paint, we're working very much in layers. So we've got our first layer, which was blue and black. This white layer is going to form our next layer now. Not afraid of making any mistakes because I know I can just paint over it. So let's start with our broadest brush, which is always a good idea to get the big background shapes put into place first, and that's good to do with a broad brush. So I'm thinking, where might be my lightest lights? I'm looking and I'm observing, and I'm paying attention. I'm noticing what I notice. I'm noticing I really like that bit. Quite like this bit, so I'll be deliberately not painting over them. So can you see this mark with this brush? How you can pull that paint down, you can smear it around, how you can make thin lines, yeah, thin lines like that, yeah. That's quite nice. Let's try the next one. These are the ones that I use all the time, and I tend to keep two of these on hand. One that I use for my dark colour mixes and one that I use for my light value colour mixes. And that's just as you'd expect. Quite a nice, thick, steady stroke there with that. Pulling this out, you can see this is what they call a dry brush effect. So there's not much paint on there and the brush is fairly dry. It doesn't flow or run. It gets a bit of an edge to it there. We can also make some mottly marks with that. Try with all your tools and see what it is that you like. You know, what do you like? What's really doing it for you? Is there anything that you really like mark-wise happening when you use these different tools? I'll show you this one now, this striper, 3/8 striper. Let's dip that in there a bit, yeah. Get a bit of paint on that. Now watch this, I love, because you just go on and on and on and on. This is very much based on a sign writer's brush, so you could buy one of those as well. Yeah, so that's just one of my favourites. Still got paint on there, and of course it does some nice splodges as well, little feather sort of shaped things. So if I was doing birds' feathers or maybe flower petals, I might like to use that one. This one then, I'm going to wet it first so it keeps the little fibres together. Look how fine that is. There's 10 fibres, so dip that in the paint. And with this, we can roll it. Gives very nice effects like that. Yeah. Or I can do very, very fine lines. Yeah. Very lovely controlled fine lines. Or I can do some nice delicate dots with that. Already we're changing this picture so much, but I'm careful, I'm tuning into what do I like, what don't I like, is there anything I want to keep, not keep. So keeping that in mind, you know, and deliberately not painting over any areas that I think I'd like. In terms of mark making as well, I keep to hand a couple of screwdrivers, flathead screwdrivers, one that's very small, like for eyeglasses, you know, for your, to alter the screws on that, and one fine electrical screwdriver, and these are just great for marking through the paint, scoring. I like to be quite graphic with my painting. I like a lot of drawing element in it, so this is very good for me to be able to scratch in like this. Again, we'll come onto a drawing bit in the design section and look at finding what your motifs are, what you come back to, what shapes you draw a lot. So there we are. Don't be limited by things. Explore as well if you could. Some printing, you know, get a bit of old bubble wrap and use that for printing. A bit of kitchen roll, and of course don't forget your potato prints as well. So explore with what you've got. If you haven't got sort of one of these, you know, the edge of an old credit card is good, that kind of thing. But these I really like. I like those brushes a lot. Explore with pointy brushes, flat brushes, long brushes, short brushes, and find your particular thing that resonates for you. All that will start to build up into your own unique way of expressing yourself artistically. And write those things down in your course journal. Okay, see you in the next session. Thank you.